Tesla is feeling the pain from its operations in China. Its factories there have easy access to the world's biggest car market, but sales have taken a major hit. How widespread is Beijing's influence? A senior editor talks about his experiences at the World Economic Forum. Diplomats from 5 countries face off in Beijing. The in-person meeting featured remarks from both the US and Russia. A Chinese woman says her father was murdered as part of Beijing's persecution of a peaceful meditation system, and that seeing his body after death revealed what really happened. And in an undercover call, a Chinese medical staff member admits to organ harvesting at a hospital, focused on prisoners of conscience. Welcome to China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. Reports say American automaker Tesla delivered 18% fewer electric vehicles in the second quarter. It's largely being blamed on China's COVID-19 related shutdown, which disrupted production and supply chains. Let's take a closer look.
The world's biggest electric car maker said on Saturday that it delivered over 254,000 vehicles in the April to June period, compared to over 310,000 vehicles in the preceding quarter, ending a nearly 2-year-long run of record quarterly deliveries. A resurgence in COVID-19 cases in China had forced Tesla to temporarily suspend production at its Shanghai factory, and also affected suppliers' facilities in the country. Tesla is ramping up production at the Shanghai factory with the easing of the COVID-19 lockdown, which will help boost deliveries in the second half. China has been instrumental in Tesla's rapid increase of vehicle production, with the low-cost, lucrative Shanghai factory producing roughly half of the company's total cars delivered last year. CEO Elon Musk has said demand for Tesla vehicles remains strong, but supply chain challenges still remain. Early in June, Musk told executives that he had a, quote, super bad feeling about the economy and needed to cut about 10% of staff at Tesla. Tesla shares have fallen 35% so far this year, hit by Musk's $44 billion proposed acquisition of Twitter, the China lockdown, and macroeconomic uncertainties.
As the World Economic Forum gains more influence on the global stage, its ties to the Chinese Communist regime also come under the spotlight. NTD's Cindy Drew-Kier from The Nation Speaks sat down with senior editor of Human Events Daily, Jack Posobiec, to find out more.
The World Economic Forum is an international organization that seeks to lobby governments and businesses. Its annual meeting in Davos brings together politicians, business leaders, and influencers to discuss issues that impact the global economy. Jack Posobiec, senior editor of Human Events Daily, was in Davos to report on this year's meeting. He says Beijing's influence at the forum was evident.
And even though we saw everywhere at the World Economic Forum, you would see Ukrainian flags, the Ukrainian house, this outpouring of support for Ukraine. But we also noticed that the one word that nobody seemed to be saying was Taiwan. That nobody was talking about Taiwan. There were no panels discussing Taiwan. No speakers were referencing Taiwan. And we saw a CCP delegation all over the entire area.
China has vowed to take control of Taiwan, which Beijing claims as its own, not ruling out the use of force. The island is also largely excluded from international organizations that have China as a member. Because of this, Posobiec says Taiwan is ignored, even though its situation is similar to that of Ukraine.
It flies in the face of just about everything they say about Ukraine. They say Ukraine is a smaller country that is facing aggression from Russia, a larger country. They say Ukraine is a democracy. We must protect democracy, defend democracy, and that's why we support them versus an autocratic regime. And I said, well, wouldn't all of that apply to Taiwan as well?
Tensions between Beijing and Taiwan are at their highest in decades. President Biden described China as already flirting with danger, as the regime repeatedly sends warplanes through Taiwanese airspace.
So it actually makes you start asking more questions than who is funding the World Economic Forum's events, who is underwriting so much of this stuff, and when you realize how much money is coming from the CCP.
The World Economic Forum says it receives financing from its 1,000 member companies. They're generally international enterprises that bring in over $5 billion in annual revenue. According to the official website of the forum's Beijing branch, more than 100 of its members and partners are Chinese companies. The WEF's Beijing branch is the first foreign NGO legally recognized and registered in China. It maintains close partnerships with state-run agencies like China's National Development and Reform Commission.
A troubling new report about China's human rights record. A practitioner of spiritual meditation practice, Falun Gong, says her father was killed through organ harvesting and that she saw his body afterward. We spoke with her and other Falun Gong practitioners at the International Religious Freedom Summit last week in Washington, D.C. Falun Gong is banned in China and has been ever since the Communist Party launched a campaign to eradicate the peaceful practice in 1999. NTD's Melina Weisskopf has more.
So it is still killing people, and my mom is a very good example. She suffered since the very beginning of the persecution for the last 23 years.
His mother was killed just a few months ago after being arrested 3 times and tortured simply for practicing a meditation discipline called Falun Dafa. Practitioners of this ancient spiritual belief follow the principles of truthfulness, compassion, and tolerance.
The more people know about this, the less people will suffer.
And one young girl, Minghui Wang, felt the pressure of the persecution at a very young age. When she was just 5 years old, she saw her mom at a brainwashing center.
Being tied up on a chair with like a thick plastic tube inserted into her nose, and she was being force-fed. That was the first time I ever saw my mother.
She was being used as a pawn in the Chinese Communist Party's agenda to force her mother to give up the practice.
It was a way to break her spirit.
But the Chinese Communist Party's brutal persecution has reached unimaginable horror. Many of these prisoners of conscience are victims of live forced organ harvesting.
What shocked me the most is the stitches on his throat area, and the incision was all the way down, which clearly indicated that my father's organ have been harvested, likely while he was still alive.
Yuhan was 19 years old when her father died.
I stepped closer to unbutton the clothes, and after opening 2 buttons, and the police immediately stopped me and forced my family out of a facility.
But they all tell me that despite this torture and the mental scars, they refuse to renounce their faith.
We believe in truthfulness, compassion, and tolerance. That is not wrong. That is universal principles, and it has made me become a better person.
Because of their perseverance and dedication to the practice and telling their stories of meeting face to face with the persecution, the Communist Party was not successful in squashing the Falun Dafa practice.
It really turned my life around pretty quickly, and I was just trying to learn how to be a good person, and it really did that for me.
Their shared message is that this practice is good and it is a crime against humanity to persecute these people for their faith. Reporting in Washington, D.C., Melina Weisskopf, NTD News.
The Chinese regime claims it stopped harvesting organs from prisoners in 2015. But at a press conference in Brussels, human rights activists revealed evidence that the Chinese regime continues to perpetrate such crimes against humanity. NTD's Anna Rodriguez has more.
A press conference was held on forced organ harvesting by the Chinese government at the Press Club Brussels, Europe on Wednesday. In a clip shown at the conference, a member of the World Organization for the Investigation of the Persecution of Falun Gong talks to a surgeon at a Xinjiang hospital, posing as a potential client.
I contacted you a few days ago about my daughter-in-law. I just need your confirmation. Can you get Falun Gong donors? Although no one talks openly about it, they are healthy donors, aren't they?
Yes, that's right.
That's the case, so good.
Yes, it is. We say you can choose a donor from 30 years old. If you're lucky, you could get one in your 20s or even younger, between 15 and 20. All this is possible if you're lucky.
Gary Cartwright, the editor of EU Today, said he found the forced organ harvesting of Falun Gong practitioners inhumane and said it was important to present the information in the footage to the public.
This is real deep investigative journalism at its best, and anybody watching that, when they hear reference to an organ donor as young as 15, this brings it into sharp focus. This isn't just a human rights abuse of those we see around us all the time. This is on a par with Holocaust.
Falun Gong practitioners practice gentle exercises, cultivating a healthy body and following Buddhist law, taking the universal values of truthfulness, benevolence, and tolerance as their guide. For almost 23 years now, they have been brutally persecuted by the Chinese Communist Party and one of the main victims of forced organ harvesting in China. Zhang Yanhua, a Falun Gong practitioner persecuted by the Chinese regime, told her story.
In prison, we were forced to take blood tests, and they only tested Falun Gong practitioners. Once the police ordered other prisoners to burn and persecute me, they threatened me, saying if I didn't obey them, they would also take me to have my organs removed.
Director and co-founder of Human Rights Without Frontiers, Willie Forter, said he didn't believe the claim at first, as it was so cruel and beyond the understanding of a human being.
But with the accumulation of the evidence and also the documents and the testimonies of people that have been collected with the incentive of Falun Gong and by professionals from the medical field, it's been now for years obvious that this awful practice by China is a reality.
Anna Rodriguez, NTD News.
Several Western ambassadors are criticizing Russia. They commented on Moscow's invasion of Ukraine on Monday, while in Beijing for a forum hosted by China's top university, Tsinghua.
The greatest threat to the world order is the Russian war in Ukraine.
U.S. Ambassador to China, Nicholas Burns, said China should not spread what he called Russia's political propaganda, adding that Russia's war against Ukraine is the greatest threat to the global order. The World Peace Forum includes ambassadors from the U.S., UK, France, Russia, and China. Alongside the U.S., other Western ambassadors criticized Russia's invasion, something that Russia's ambassador brushed off. The diplomats also turned their attention to China at one point. They urged Beijing to stop blaming NATO, the world's largest military alliance, for the war. Ambassador Burns also touched on a hot topic: biological weapons labs. He said China has been lying in its claims that the U.S. runs those labs in Ukraine. He voiced hope that China would stop pushing those claims and reiterated that those labs don't exist in Ukraine. That's all of today's China in Focus on YouTube. We're now sharing a shortened version of our program here after being demonetized for more than a year. Here's what to look out for in our second half. Communist China denies the commitment it made to Hong Kong. It signed onto the deal 25 years ago when the UK handed Hong Kong to Beijing rule. According to that agreement, Beijing promised to keep a one country, two systems policy unchanged for 50 years. And a former chair of the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom sheds light on the situation surrounding religious freedom in China. And she details how she believes the West should deal with it. The full episode is available on our partner platform, Epoch TV. To sign up, click the link down below. Thanks for watching China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer, and see you tomorrow.
The 2022 NTD 8th International Chinese Vocal Competition will be held from September 29th to October 2nd at the Merkin Hall of Kaufman Music Center in New York City. The competition is honored to have specially invited vocalists with the world-renowned Shen Yun Performing Arts to serve on its panel of judges. The gold award is $10,000. For more information, please visit vocal.ntdtv.com.